Two women step off the same train, each carrying a letter from the same man. They've traveled west to marry him. But before either can speak his name, they learn he's been dead for 2 weeks. And the ranch he promised? It'll be taken, unless one of them can claim it. Love won't choose between them. The land will. The ranch sits beyond the edge of town, where fences matter and help arrives late, if it arrives at all. No neighbors close enough to share the work. No mercy in the weather, just land that demands proof, not promises. Eleanor believed marriage would finally give her somewhere to belong. Sophia believed it would give her a future she could control. They arrive on the same morning, each holding nearly identical letters. William Turner promised them both a home. What he left behind was debt, a foreclosure notice, and a bank that doesn't care who was loved, only who can keep the land alive. The rule is simple: 6 months to make the ranch profitable or lose it. They don't trust each other. They don't like each other. But neither one can survive alone. And before winter comes, they'll have to decide what costs more: fighting for a promise made by a dead man, or staying together on land that may never forgive them for believing in love at all. Eleanor steps down from the train. No one's waiting. The platform sits quiet, wind pushing dust along the boards. A station clock ticks loud enough to count every second. She pulls her carpet bag close, the letter folded inside her coat. Another woman steps down behind her. Not a child, not family. Too careful to be accidental. The woman pauses, glances towards the road, then at Eleanor. Neither one smiles. Footsteps cross the platform. A sheriff stops in front of them, hat pulled low, voice flat as stone. "You here for William Turner?" Eleanor nods. The other woman answers at the same moment. "Yes." The sheriff lets out a breath, and the wood creaks as he shifts his weight. "He won't be coming. Man died 2 weeks back. Bar fight. Buried outside town." The wind lifts Eleanor's coat. The letter presses against her ribs like an accusation. The other woman speaks first. "That's not possible." The sheriff doesn't argue, just points down the road. "The ranch is still there." For now, they walk together without deciding to, not side by side, not far enough apart to be strangers. The house stands quiet when they arrive. Shutters closed, fence leaning but holding. Inside, dust lies thick on the table. No fire, no sign of a life that was waiting. The other woman drops her bag hard on the floor. "I'm Sophie," she says. "This was supposed to be my home." Eleanor removes her coat slowly, then places her letter on the table. "So is this." They both look at the paper. Same ink, same promise, same lie. Outside, wind moves through the dry grass, and neither woman folds her letter away. The banker waits until they're both seated before he speaks. A ledger lies open on the desk, ink dried dark and final. Lamplight holds steady above it. He doesn't ask them to sit again. "You're both claiming the same property," he says. "The name on the deed is William Turner's." Eleanor keeps her hands folded. Sophie leans back, arms crossed tight. The banker turns a page. Paper scrapes against wood. "Mr. Turner's debts exceed the value of the land. The bank will take possession within 6 months." Sophie leans forward fast, chair legs scraping the floor. "He promised marriage. To both of us." The banker doesn't look at either letter when they place them down. He looks at the dates, the signatures. "Neither of these proves a legal claim," he says. "Words don't outlast a man." Eleanor inhales, slow, careful. "So what happens now?" The banker closes the ledger with a soft thud. "You may leave, or you may stay and work the ranch." Silence stretches. Dust drifts near the window. "If the land turns a profit, the bank delays foreclosure. If not..." He shrugs. You both walk away with nothing. Sophie laughs once. Not humor, just recognition. You're asking us to compete. The banker shakes his head. I'm asking you to succeed. How you manage that isn't my concern. Outside, a wagon passes. Iron rims strike stone. Eleanor reaches for her letter but doesn't pick it up. How long? 6 months. They stand at the same time, not together, not apart. At the door, Sophie stops. If one of us leaves, what happens to the other? The banker meets her eyes. The land doesn't care who stays, only who can keep it alive. And just like that, leaving becomes the most expensive choice either of them can make. They stand in the yard while the banker's wagon disappears down the road. The house casts a narrow strip of shade. The rest of the land lies open and unforgiving. Sophie walks the fence first, pressing a boot against a loose post. It shifts under the pressure. Stock won't hold, she says, no matter who owns it. Eleanor watches from the porch, wood warm beneath her palm, the door hanging open behind her. There's no food inside, no firewood cut. Sophie turns, dust clinging to her skirt. I didn't come here to cook. Eleanor doesn't answer that. They move through the house without invitation. Separate rooms, separate silences. In the kitchen, Eleanor opens cupboards. Empty. She lifts the lid on the stove. Cold ash, nothing more. Outside, Sophie walks the corral, counting boards and counting gaps. They meet again at the well. Water creaks up slow. The bucket knocks against wood. This won't work, Sophie says. 2 people pulling in different directions. Eleanor sets the bucket down careful, doesn't spill a drop. Then don't pull my way, take the land. Sophie studies her longer than politeness allows. And you? I'll take the house. Wind moves through the dry grass. A decision settles between them. You don't touch the stock, Sophie says. Ever. You don't tell me how to keep the rooms, Eleanor answers. They nod once. Sharp, clean, no handshake, no smile, just lines drawn where none existed before. That night, Eleanor lights the first fire, alone. Sophie sleeps in the far room. Between them, the house creaks, not from age, but from being divided. Eleanor wakes before light and finds the fire dead. Cold has settled into the rooms. The floor bites through thin soles. Ash stains her fingers when she checks the grate. She steps outside for wood. The pile looks smaller than she remembers. Across the yard, Sophie's already moving. A gate hangs open, one hinge twisted loose. Hoofprints cut deep into soft earth. Sophie swears once. Low, controlled. Eleanor stops beside her. Something got out. 3, Sophie answers. Maybe 4. They don't look at each other. Sophie follows the tracks toward the far fence. Eleanor stays back, scanning the ground near the barn. The wind picks up. Dust stings their eyes. They find the calf near the ravine. One leg caught wrong, breath shallow, eyes already glassy. Sophie kneels. Leather creaks as she shifts her weight. It won't last. Eleanor hears the truth before the words finish. She steps closer, then stops. Sophie does what needs doing. Quick. Quiet. When she stands, blood darkens the dirt beneath her boots. Neither woman speaks. They drag the body clear of the path and cover it with earth and stone. By the time they return, the sun's up. A rider waits near the house, the banker's clerk, young and too neat for this kind of land. He holds a folded paper. Just keeping records, he says. Losses included. Sophie wipes her hands on her skirt but doesn't finish the job. Eleanor takes the paper. 1 calf gone. Counted. Not forgiven. The rider mounts again. 6 months moves fast, he says, already turning away. The dust settles slow after he leaves. Sophie looks toward the fence. 1 more like that and this place starts choosing for us. Eleanor nods. That night the fire burns low, and neither woman sleeps easy, knowing the land has already taken something back. Eleanor hears the horse before she sees it, hoofbeats slowing near the yard. Not the banker's clerk. Not just passing through. Sophie steps out of the barn, rope in hand. A man sits his horse easy by the fence, hat worn soft at the brim, waiting. "Morning," he says, voice unhurried. Sophie nods once. "What do you want?" He glances toward the house, then back. "I'm heading east. Town's thin this time of year. Thought I'd ask if anyone wanted a ride." Eleanor stays on the porch, wood cool beneath her bare feet. Sophie rests her hand on the rope, doesn't coil it. "When?" "Tomorrow, sunup." The word hangs there between them. Eleanor watches Sophie's face. Nothing moves there yet. "We're busy," Sophie says. The man shrugs. "No trouble. Offer stands." He tips his hat and turns his horse. Dust lifts, then settles. Sophie doesn't watch him leave. Inside, Eleanor sets water to heat. The kettle rattles soft against the iron. "You could go," Eleanor says, not turning around. "No one would stop you." Sophie leans against the table. Wood creaks under her weight. "And leave you the stock?" She almost laughs. "I didn't say that." Sophie's quiet for a moment. "If I leave, this place fails faster. You know it." Eleanor faces her then, just long enough. "And if you stay?" Sophie looks past her, out the window toward nothing in particular. "Then I don't get another offer." Silence fills the room, heavy and chosen. Outside, wind moves along the fence line. Eleanor pours the water. Neither woman says thank you. Neither says goodbye to the road. And by not speaking again, they decide something neither of them can name yet. Eleanor cleans the desk because it needs doing. Dust lifts with each pass of the cloth. Wood shows through in streaks. The drawer sticks when she pulls. She tries again, harder. It gives. Inside, papers lie folded tight. Too many to be forgotten, too careful to be trash. Eleanor doesn't read at first, just stacks them. Counts. 8. Footsteps cross the floor behind her. Sophie stops at the doorway. "What is it?" Eleanor hands her the top page. Sophie reads the first line, then the signature. William Turner. Same hand, same flourish. She flips to the next, then the next. Each one begins the same way. Each promises the same thing. Each ends with a future that never arrived. Sophie exhales through her nose, slow, measured. "How many?" 8, Eleanor answers. "In one drawer." Sophie closes her eyes, not long, just enough. She takes one letter and folds it again, careful and exact. "Different names, different towns." "But the dates overlap," Eleanor replies. "They stand apart now. Distance earned, not chosen." Sophie opens the drawer farther, finds nothing else. "He didn't plan on us comparing notes." Eleanor doesn't answer. Outside, a wagon rattles past. Town moving on. Sophie sets the letters back. "Burn them." Eleanor hesitates, then slides the drawer shut instead. Not yet. Sophie watches her longer than comfort allows. For the first time, the rivalry shifts, not softer, sharper. Because the enemy may not be each other, and because whatever William Turner promised, he promised it often. They ride in together because riding separate would get noticed. The hitching rails crowded. Leather creaks as they dismount. Dust settles on hems they didn't choose to share. Inside the store, a bell rings once. Conversation thins. Not silence, just attention. Eleanor steps to the counter, sets down coins. "Bread, beans," the clerk weighs without meeting her eyes. Behind them, voices lower. "That's them," someone says, not quiet. "Enough." Sophie turns, not sharp, just measured. A man near the stove clears his throat. Thought Turner was expecting a wife. Didn't know he ordered 2. A laugh answers him, uneven and testing. Eleanor keeps her hand still. The coins don't move. We're not here for talk. The clerk slides the sack forward. You're here for credit, and that's talk. Sophie steps closer to the counter, wood tapping under her knuckles. We pay. For now, the clerk answers. Outside, a notice is nailed fresh to the post. Sophie reads it first. Auction pending. Property of William Turner. A date, too close. Eleanor reaches for the paper, then stops short. A woman passes them on the boardwalk, looks once, then looks again. Best decide quick, the woman says, not unkind. Town doesn't wait on confusion. They mount without comment. On the road back, Sophie breaks the quiet. They think we're a mistake. Eleanor watches the fence line approach. Then we give them something else, to think about. Behind them, the town bell rings the hour. Ahead, the ranch waits, and somewhere between, their names begin to cost more than money. They repair the fence where the road bends closest, not because it's the worst break, but because it's the one everyone sees. Sophie drives the post, each strike clean, deliberate. Eleanor holds the line steady, gloves rough against her palms, wood biting through. A wagon slows on the road. Doesn't stop. They keep working. Sweat darkens Sophie's collar. Eleanor adjusts the wire. Neither speaks. A rider approaches near midday, one of the neighbors. Name known, favor not owed. You fixing Turner's fence? Our fence, Eleanor answers without looking up. The man studies them long enough to weigh the words. Bank won't like 2 names. Sophie plants the post deep, lets the hammer rest. Bank doesn't ride this road. The man nods once, moves on. Later, a woman brings water, sets the jug down, doesn't stay. Didn't know. Which of you was staying? Eleanor wipes her hands. Both. The woman pauses, then leaves the jug. By evening, the fence holds, not strong, but upright. They sit on the ground to eat. Bread torn, not cut. Dust on everything. Sophie breaks the silence. People are counting now. Eleanor nods. They already were. The sun drops behind the hills. Shadows stretch long across the land. From the road, the ranch no longer looks empty. And for the first time, staying together costs them privacy, and buys them time they may not be able to afford. The package arrives without a name, left at the gate, tied with twine too neat for accident. Eleanor lifts it first. Light, paper-heavy. Sophie watches from the yard. Don't open it there. They take it inside. The string cuts clean under the knife. The smell of dust and ink rises. Letters spill across the table, more than before, different hands, different towns. Same beginning. Eleanor spreads them out, counts slow. 12. Sophie picks one at random, reads the date. Her jaw tightens. He wrote this while he was answering mine. Eleanor nods once. Another letter slides free. Then another. Promises repeat. Words reused. Endings identical. Outside, wind taps the shutters. Steady, unconcerned. Sophie gathers the letters into a stack, presses them flat with her palm. How many do you think showed up? Eleanor doesn't answer right away. 2. Us. Sophie lets out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Then we weren't chosen. We were just the ones who didn't turn back. Eleanor folds one letter smaller than the rest. He didn't expect us to meet. Silence settles between them. Not hostile. Different. Sophie pushes the stack toward the stove. Burn them. This time Eleanor does. Paper curls, ink blackens. Promises disappear one by one. They watch until nothing's left but ash. When Sophie speaks again, her voice is even. We're not rivals. Not the way we thought. Eleanor looks at the Empty table. No, we're survivors of the same mistake. Outside, the land waits. And whatever they're building now, it no longer belongs to William Turner. They stand at the edge of the field, counting rows that won't come in full. The soil breaks uneven, earth dry beneath the blade, breath short from work, not fear. Sophie wipes her hands on her skirt. We can sell early, take less, keep the bank patient. Eleanor looks toward the road. And tell them what? That the man who promised us this land lied? Sophie doesn't answer right away. A rider appears at the bend, bank colors, straight-backed. He stops short of the gate. Inspection. Voice polite, eyes measuring. They walk him through the fields together, not close, not distant. He asks about yield, about labor, about plans. Sophie answers numbers. Eleanor answers schedules. The man nods, writes. At the barn, he pauses. Any other claimants? The question lands heavy. Eleanor feels the words rise. Truth. Ready. Dangerous. Sophie shifts beside her. Leather creaks. No, Sophie says. The man studies them longer than necessary. Good. Complications slow things down. He mounts and rides off. Dust settles. They don't speak until the gate closes. That was a lie, Eleanor says. It was a delay, Sophie answers. One we needed. Eleanor looks at the ground, then at the house. And if another woman comes? Sophie meets her eyes. Then we decide again. The wind picks up, carries dust across the field. They turn back to work. Behind them, the road stays empty. For now. And the silence they chose holds, just long enough to make it dangerous. The rider appears at dusk. Not fast, not lost. A woman sits the saddle straight-backed, travel-worn, hat pulled low. She stops at the gate and waits. Eleanor sees her first. The lantern light wavers in her hand. Breath catches, then steadies. Sophie steps up beside her. Doesn't ask who it is. The woman dismounts. Boots hit dirt. Careful. I'm looking for William Turner. No one answers. She lifts a folded paper, edges soft from handling. I have a letter, dated April. Sophie closes the gate slow. Wood scrapes. He's dead. 2 weeks before you left. The woman absorbs this without sitting, without crying. I know, I came anyway. Eleanor raises the lantern. Light finds the letter. Same ink, same hand. How many? The woman asks. Sophie looks at Eleanor, then back. Enough. Silence presses in. Wind stirs dry grass. I don't want the land, the woman says. I want what he owed. Eleanor's voice stays level. There's nothing left, only work. The woman nods. I'll stay the night, then I'll go. Sophie hesitates, a beat too long. Fine. Inside, Eleanor sets a third place at the table. Fabric brushes wood, careful. No one speaks of payment, no one eats much. At dawn, the woman leaves without waking them. On the table, she leaves the letter. Sophie stares at it. That's another. Eleanor picks it up. Doesn't burn it. Outside, the gate stands open, and the choice they delayed has already cost them something they can't count back. Eleanor wakes to the sound of the stove, not burning, just warming. She steps into the kitchen and finds Sophie measuring grain. Careful scoops. Counted. Reduced. You're cutting rations. Sophie doesn't look up. I'm protecting the stock. The house eats too. So does Winter, Sophie replies. They work around each other without touching. Fabric brushes past, avoided. Later, Eleanor walks the rooms with a pencil and scrap paper. She counts beds, blankets, chairs that could be sold. At the barn, Sophie tallies feet again. Then again. By midday, the distance between them feels wider than the yard. Eleanor finds Sophie near the corral. There's a buyer in town for furniture. Sophie stiffens. That table stays. It's worth more than a month's feed. Sophie turns then, eyes sharp. And when winter comes, do we eat chairs? Silence lands hard. Eleanor looks past her toward the hills. We can't save everything. Sophie shakes her head. Then choose what you're willing to lose. That night, Eleanor moves one chair into the shed. Not all of them, just one. Sophie notices, says nothing. The house creaks differently with space missing, and for the first time since the train platform, they're not making the same calculations, even while standing on the same land. The wagon waits at the road, not the banks, private and patient. Eleanor stands beside it, one hand on the sideboard, wood rough beneath her palm. The chair rests inside, upside down, tied tight. Sophie comes up behind her. I said one. Eleanor doesn't turn. That is one. The driver shifts, clears his throat. Cash only? Eleanor nods. Coins change hands. Weight replaces shape. The wagon pulls away, slow. Dust rises, then thins. Sophie watches until it's gone. That chair was from the house. So was the stove, Eleanor replies. And the roof. Sophie looks toward the barn. The stock can't be replaced. Eleanor meets her gaze. Neither can time. They stand there longer than needed. That afternoon, Eleanor moves the remaining chairs closer together. The table looks wrong now, off balance. At dusk, Sophie counts the herd again. One missing, not gone, just separated, standing alone near the fence. Sophie brings it back without calling out. Later, Eleanor sets supper. 2 plates, no extra. The space where the chair stood stays empty. Sophie sits, doesn't comment. After the meal, Sophie speaks once. If this works, we don't get it back. Eleanor nods. I know. The fire burns lower than usual, and what they've lost tonight doesn't feel dramatic, just permanent. The rider comes just after noon. No dust cloud, no warning. He dismounts at the gate and waits. Eleanor meets him halfway, hands empty, back straight. Sophie stays by the barn, close enough to hear, far enough to decide later. The man holds out a paper. Revised terms. Eleanor takes it. The page is thin, unforgiving. The bank will settle if one of you signs sole claim. Eleanor doesn't look up. And the other? The man shrugs. Leaves, today. Sophie steps closer then, boots firm on earth. We've both worked this land, the man nods. Work doesn't own property, names do. Silence presses tight. Eleanor reads the line twice, then folds the paper. You're asking us to choose. I'm offering certainty, he answers. Wind moves across the yard. Loose fabric lifts, settles. Sophie speaks first. I'll go. Eleanor turns sharp. No. Sophie doesn't meet her eyes. You belong to the house. You can keep it alive. Eleanor steps closer, voice low. And you? Sophie looks at the stock, counts without counting. I can start again. Somewhere that doesn't already know my name. The rider clears his throat. I'll return by sundown. Decision signed. He mounts and rides off. The yard feels smaller after he leaves. Eleanor stands still, paper heavy in her hand. For the first time, love doesn't ask them to endure. Together. It asks them to decide who stays whole, and who walks away carrying the cost. Eleanor sits alone at the table. The paper lies flat, the pen rests beside it. Ink waits. Outside, Sophie moves through the barn, counting tack, checking knots that don't need checking. The sun drops slow. Light thins. Eleanor lifts the pen once, sets it down. She folds the paper instead. At the gate, the rider returns. Sophie hears him first, steps out into the yard. You ready? Sophie nods. Eleanor comes last, paper in hand. The rider dismounts, holds out the pen. Eleanor hands him the folded page instead. He opens it, frowns. Only one name is written. Sophie Calder. The writer looks up. This leaves you nothing. Sophie answers before Eleanor can. It leaves me finished, which is enough. Eleanor's jaw tightens. She doesn't speak. The writer studies the paper again, then nods. By sundown, the property transfers. He mounts and leaves. Dust settles. Sophie turns toward the house, stops halfway. You don't owe me. Eleanor steps closer. I know. They stand there while the light fades. No packing, no farewell, just two women breathing the same air one last time as owners. That night, Sophie sleeps in the far room. The house creaks, holds, and the land learns which name will remain, and which love paid the price to let it happen. Morning comes without ceremony. Eleanor wakes to the sound of the door opening, not leaving, not arriving, just opening. She sits up. Sophie stands in the doorway, coat folded over her arm, boots still on, hat in hand. You missed the train, Eleanor says. Sophie nods. It left. I didn't. They stand there, distance held, not bridged. Outside, the yard looks the same, fence upright, barn quiet. Eleanor moves first. She sets another cup on the table. Sophie watches, doesn't comment. They eat without speaking, bread torn slow, crumbs left behind. After, Sophie goes to the barn. No, permission asked. None given. She checks the stock, adjusts a gate, stops a loose board from shifting. Eleanor watches from the porch. By midday, the writer returns. This time he brings no paper. Property transferred to Eleanor Whitaker. Eleanor nods. And her? She stays, Eleanor says. The writer shrugs. Not my concern. When he's gone, Sophie comes up beside her. You didn't have to. I know, Eleanor answers. They stand shoulder to shoulder now, not touching, not separate. By evening, the fire is lit. 2 chairs at the table, one space still empty. The house doesn't feel whole, but it holds. Outside, the land stretches quiet and patient. No promises left in it, only work, only time. And in choosing to stay, not for love promised, but for love tested and paid for, they begin something that doesn't need a name to endure. If you love stories like this, you're welcome here. Subscribe if you want more Western romances. And if this story stayed with you, you can say so in the comments. I'll see it. I'm your narrator, John. Until the next road.